Hi, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Robert Gibbons, and this is another edition of Encouraging Young Readers Yesterday When I Was Young. The title of our book today is The United States versus Jackie Robinson by Subdeepta Kardhan Qualin and illustrated by R. Gregory Christie. Let's crack this book open and see what it reveals to us. The United States versus Jackie Robinson, written by Subdeepta Kardhan Qualin and illustrated by R. Gregory Christie, an imprint of HarperCollins publisher. Page 1. Long before anyone had heard of Rosa Parks, a guy named Jackie refused to move to the back of the bus, and like Rosa, Jackie made history too. Jackie Robinson grew up in Pasadena, California, at a time when the public pools were open to black children only once a week, then drained immediately afterwards and refilled with fresh water for the white children who swam the rest of the time. Segregation was the reality of American life. Most white people would not share schools, restaurants, bathrooms, water fountains, or seating areas with black people. White lawmakers in the South actually passed laws requiring black people to stay away from places that were labeled white only. As the only black family on their street, the Robinsons were not welcomed by their white neighbors. Some even started a petition to get the Robinsons to leave, but Jackie's mother, Maylie, wouldn't go. She made it clear to any and all that she was not afraid and that she wouldn't allow anyone to treat her family badly. Maylie taught her children to stand up for what is right. Even when that was difficult to do, Jackie learned those lessons. Even as a child, Jackie was good at sports, so much that kids at school would bribe him with treats for their lunches if he played for their team. As he grew up, his name and athletic feats were regularly in the newspaper. Jackie and Maylie dreamed that his talents would unlock doors for him, especially to college when the University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA, recruited Jackie to play for them. That dream came true. Jackie became one of the most successful college athletes in the country. He won games, he broke records, he sealed championships, but a lot of people still saw him only as a black man. On the football field, opponents would go out of their way to hit him, whether he had the ball or not. Even Jackie's own teammates once used practice as an excuse to tackle him so hard that they severely sprained his knee. Black athletes weren't supposed to argue with white coaches, referees, or players. They were supposed to feel lucky that UCLA let them play at all, but Jackie never forget his mother's lesson. On or off the field, Jackie wouldn't back down from anyone who treated him unfairly. Jackie became the first person in UCLA history to earn varsity letters in 4 different sports: football, basketball, baseball, and track. But that didn't mean he could start dreaming about a career in sports after college. There was a line that had to be crossed to play on a professional team, the color line. White athletes could be professionals, but no major team would hire a black player. Page 8. Jackie he couldn't bear to pursue a dream that would never come true, so he left college without graduating and looked for a job. Not long after Pearl Harbor was attacked and the United States entered World War II, Americans from all walks of life, including Jackie Robinson, answered their nation's call to defend freedom around the globe. In the Army, Jackie experienced segregation on a daily basis. On the base, there were separate places for black soldiers to sit in segregated barracks for them to live in. But for a long time, sports had been a place where Jackie had been able to excel regardless of the color of his skin. So one day he tried to join the Fort Riley baseball team. When Jackie arrived at the field, players were already practicing. Jackie introduced himself to the white officers in charge as a potential recruit. The officer looked Jackie over, he shook his head, then he said, "You have to play for the colored team." Except there was no colored team. Jackie hadn't realized any sports would have a color line too, or that the Fort Riley team wouldn't see him as just another baseball player, but they only saw him as a black man. Jackie watched practice for a while, his face flushed with anger, then he turned and walked away, but he didn't forget. Soon after, a colonel asked Jackie to play football for the base. Jackie refused. The colonel sternly reminded Jackie he could be commanded to play. "Yes," Jackie replied, "but he couldn't be commanded to play well. You wouldn't want me playing on your team," he said, knowing my heart wasn't in it. Jackie never took a picture or a snap for the Army. In May 1944, the Army issued an order forbidding segregation on military posts and buses. To black soldiers like Jack, this was an important change, even though segregation was found everywhere in America. From then on, it was supposed to be different in the Army. When Jack was on Army property, he should have been free to go where he wanted. But just because the Army gave an order didn't mean everyone respected it. Jackie would soon learn that firsthand. On July 6th, at Fort Hood in Texas, Jackie sat down in a seat in the middle of an Army bus. He didn't notice other passengers staring at him or the driver telling him to go to the back of the bus. The longer Jackie ignored the driver, the more the man fumed. He stopped the bus and walked down the aisle. He balled his fist and said, "Will you move to the back?" Jackie knew his rights. He didn't argue, but he didn't get up either. The driver glared. He warned Jack that there was trouble coming. Within moments of the bus arriving at Jack's stop, a crowd of angry white people surrounded Jack, yelling at him to know his place, calling him names. The crowd didn't even see an officer in the United States Army. They only saw a black man. When the military police arrived, they didn't detain any of the white people who had been shouting and making threats. They didn't discipline the bus driver for trying to segregate an Army bus, but the Army had forbidden it. Instead, they decided that Jackie Robinson was the one who was wrong. Jackie couldn't believe it. He had been charged with 2 crimes. This wasn't a misunderstanding or a mistake. Jackie would be taken to trial before a military court called a court-martial. If found guilty, his Army career would be over and he would go to jail. Page 14. Jackie knew the court-martial wouldn't have happened if he had just moved to the back of the bus. He worried how this would affect his reputation and integrity, but Jackie also knew he had done the right thing. Jackie remembered what his mother taught him. He was ready for this. On August 2nd, 1944, the case of the United States versus Second Lieutenant Jack Roosevelt Robinson began. The prosecution witness began a direct order and was disrespectful to a senior officer. Jackie had no choice but to listen while people lied about him, but when he took the stand, he told the truth with dignity. He described how the bus driver had ordered him to the back of the bus, how soldiers ranked beneath him treated him like a criminal instead of an officer. He testified with the MP captain never gave him any order, that he hadn't done anything wrong. Then Jackie waited for the real story to come out, and soon the truth did emerge. Several of Jack's commanding officers testified about his excellent character and leadership skill. Some prosecution witness admitted that Jack had never ignored any order because he was never given any orders. Others revealed that Jack had been called names and insulted because of his race. After 5 hours of testimony, it was clear to the court that Jack had been charged only because of the color of his skin. The verdict was delivered not guilty. Jack had fought for what he knew was right. He had stood up to the prejudice and discrimination and exercised his right to sit wherever he wanted on a bus. He was one of the first black Americans to challenge a segregation law in court and won. Jack made history that day, but it wasn't the last time Jack would do that. After the trial, Jack asked to leave the Army. He took a job in Kansas City and then another in Montreal. And in 1947, Jack went to work in Brooklyn, New York. But at all those jobs, most people didn't call him Jack anymore. They called him Jackie Robinson. That job he took in Kansas City was to play baseball for the Negro Leagues team called the Montreaux. The job in Montreal was to play for a minor league team called the Royals, and that job in Brooklyn was to play for the first base for the Brooklyn Dodgers. On April 15, 1947, Jack broke the color line in professional baseball. Once again, he had to fight for what was right with patience and grace in the face of racism and hatred, and once again he made history. But then Jack had had plenty of practice doing both of those things. And the title of that book is called The United States versus Jackie Robinson by Subdipta Barhan Qualin and illustrated by R. Gregory Christie. This is encouraging young readers. Enjoy your day.